This is the Season 8 Arena experience. Fight off spawn, if you're contested in a hot drop only. Then there's only 20 people alive, come to the end of the first circle. Spend more time not finding anybody. Everybody fights at the end in a third-party mess. This state is not ideal for obvious reasons. It's not a highly competitive mode, and it doesn't reflect the competitive tournaments that we have either, making it not really a great way to qualify for these tournaments. Now, I've made many videos complaining about this, but I'm not going to make a complaining video. I'm going to make a solutions video of what I think should be done to actually fix the problem. Now, there obviously has to be requirements of Arena, so what do I think it should be able to do? Firstly, grant access to tournaments. Similar to the way it does so far already, has to be able to grant access to tournaments like FNCS to have like a minimum skill requirement basically to get in, so that the first games and the remainder of the tournament isn't just a full W key against Opens players. The second requirement is to have high quality games throughout the majority of the day. Now, they don't need to be Storm Surge every single moving, just general high quality games with a lot of players moving where you can practice your early, mid and late game. And then if you want a W key, the late game playlist is right there for you now, so you can have a bit of both. You can have two playlists that have this different features. You can have a proper competitive playlist, a proper rank mode, and then a fighting playlist like the late game mode. It also has to be rewarding, and I mean this non-financially rewarding. So do not make prize money for Arena. That is not a fixed solution. That's a band-aid to make people play properly. You have to make people want to play it for a good reason, because it rewards them with something like a good rank, something that adds some good entry, maybe some rewards cosmetically. Prosthetic? Did I say prosthetic? They're not getting fake legs. But yeah, cosmetics, you get that. I also want there to be a difference, a variability of playstyles. So not just hot dropping. In Arena, for the last few seasons, if you don't land anywhere that's not one of the most contested hot drop POIs, people are going to say, oh, I can't believe you do that in Arena. You want to land at a poor little POI, a poor little looting path like this? There have to be some sort of variability in playstyles when it comes to Arena to correctly reflect the competitive tournaments. Has to be grindable. Arena right now is not grindable. You get to 6k points, you just play some. There's not that like need, that want, the urge to play something like that because you want to get better and improve. And Fortnite generally struggles with this quite a lot of grindability, and a lot of that is due to the fact that Arena just does not fit this category. And then my final requirement, one that I think is a personal favorite, is to combine FNCS Opens with Arena. So basically the FNCS Opens will be week long. That'll lead up into the FNCS to get rid of that first stage. We all know the teams who are going to get through it anyway. You're not going to see big names struggling unless, you know, they've had a horrible season. So it's not necessarily that required. But if you could play those kind of quality games throughout the entire week, that'll be so much better. So that's the goals. That's the objectives. What is the solution on top of that as well? Well, firstly, I feel like an ELO system is absolutely required. The current just get points up to a certain point, there's an infinite cap, just doesn't work, right? We've played it for season on season on season. We know that this in particular just doesn't work. The fact that they've just added D-ranking is a good start, but again, we all know those Arena games aren't going to be of super high quality. So what do I mean by an ELO system? Well, I want to give you the best, most probably simple example ever from Pokemon Showdown. This is a website game. It's very simple. It's very fun, by the way. If you love Pokemon, go play some Pokemon Showdown. It's completely free. This isn't an ad. I just love this game. I actually play it a ton. Super simple. You start on 1000 ELO. If you win a game, you go up. If you lose a game, you go down. And there's a leaderboard. Simple enough. Now, if you beat someone who has higher ELO than you, you're going to gain more ELO than if you beat someone who had way less ELO. Because essentially, if you're beating someone better than you, you should be gaining more ELO. And if you're beating someone worse than you, well, it's not as impressive, so you gain less points. Same thing is, if you're better and you lose to a really bad player, you're going to lose a ton of ELO. But if you lose to a really good player that's much better than you in higher ELO, you don't lose quite as much. So this already punishes players who are really good W keying against bad players, because realistically, bad players can still fight back and you can still lose, and you'd lose a ton of points if you ended up dying to these people. This is a very simple example. It's 1v1 situation. So how would I implement this into Fortnite? There are a couple of ways I would like to do this, but most importantly, I want it to be based on placement points per game. Now, firstly, this is going to be a complicated solution, but I feel like it's one that works in the long run. So let's negate elimination points. We're going to come back to that later on. Don't worry, you can get your elim points, but let's come back to that later. Let's purely think about placement points and elo. Take a solo game, 100 players in the lobby. So with these 100 players here, you have to just figure out what all of the elo of these players are. Now, if you come in the top 25 in placement only, you're going to gain elo. If you come in the bottom 75, you're going to lose elo. So similar to our Pokemon Showdown example, if you win, you go up. If you lose, you go down. However, in this case, if you come in the top 25, you gain points. If you come outside of the top 25, you lose points. Now, I'm just suggesting 25 and 75, maybe 50-50, right? If you come in the top half of the leaderboard, you do better and you can move up. If you come in the bottom half, you move down. But it just depends on the quality of games, because if the quality of game isn't really, really good, then it doesn't really matter about 50-50. If it's 25 to 75, you know players will play for endgame. How many points would you actually lose? Well, that would be dependent on the skill of the entire lobby. Essentially, if you're much better than the rest of the lobby, you would gain less points in elo if you beat those players, because they're rubbish in comparison to you. If you were really, really bad and you were in a really good lobby and you performed well, you'd obviously gain more elo and you'd move on up. Now, this rewards players that don't die off spawn, so that rewards people not hot dropping firstly and go into these smaller locations, potentially playing from that top 25 to start with. So this is a good start, right? Get into the top quarter of the lobby. This is an indicator to start with. Obviously, you'd have an elo leaderboard, so everyone would be able to grind that leaderboard and consistently go up. The higher you got on the leaderboard, the beauty of this elo system is it's more punishing to die off spawn. So that means when you get up to the higher levels, people aren't going to be W keying as much. They're going to be doing the opposite. They're going to be playing for placement more to make sure they keep going up in the leaderboards. Now, my initial thought process was to do like a 10 game system, like I think League of Legends, correct me if I'm wrong, does. You play 10 games, it sets your original starting elo, and then, you know, you play from there on out. But I don't think that's actually a good solution for Fortnite. The solution I feel would probably be better is one that ArchVP talked about, which is just the same as Pokemon Showdown, to be honest. He did a video on this. Let's do it this side. You can go over there. You can go watch that. It was a cool video on it as well. That start on a specific elo. Now let's take Pokemon Showdown. Start on 1000 elo. Why not do the same in Fortnite? You start on 1000 elo. You go up if you come in the top 25. If you go in the bottom 75, you go down. It's pretty simple. It's a simple elo system that works. If you do well in the game, you go up. You do bad, you go down. It rewards people for consistently doing well and punishes them very hard if you do badly and drop down. So before I talk about elimination points, let's talk about thresholds and ranks, the stuff that actually matters. Now, the way I want to advise this is into a top kind of number. So top number 10, the top 10 players get a specific rank, top 100, top 500, top 1000, all of these kind of categories. So basically, if you're in the top, say top 10 of elo across your region, you'd be in whatever specific rank. Giga Champions mode, we'll call it from now on. You're in the top 10, you're an absolute beast. And you'd get potentially specific rewards. If that ranking system was rewarding enough, you may not need cosmetics or, as I said earlier, prosthetics. You might need some fake legs or some fake arms if you wanted to be up in that top 10. But one of the most important parts of this is entry to tournaments, like I talked about earlier. So if you got, say, for example, top 1000 in your region of elo, that would then allow you eligibility to play FNCS. Now, this would basically negate the first round. So say rather than having 4 rounds, you just have round 2, 3, and 4 as it currently is so far, meaning that throughout the week, you were battling to get into the top 1k, playing hard placement games to try and make it so that you can get into the top 1k of elo and play through the FNCS. So you've qualified purely by playing arena rather than just getting to champs, then playing round 1. And say for cash cups and things like that, now I know cash cup participation is very, very important. I'm guessing it's very important to Epic as well, because it's very good to see big numbers playing these tournaments at the same time. So definitely you could put a different threshold. So maybe not top 1k, because that's a bit narrow. So maybe if you made it into the top 10k, and obviously maybe not on some of the smaller regions this would work, but say EU, top 10k players on the ELO leaderboard manage to then make it in, and you can now play the cash cup or the trio cash cup, and maybe solo cash cup we can look at something else, because a lot of times more than 10k peepers play it. But let's just not talk about solos for now. Let's just kind of focus this specifically on trios. I'm going to point out one problem that I feel is very, very important: getting into high elo and then not playing. Now, I said earlier, I don't know if I said it earlier because I may have deleted that take actually, but I was talking about points decaying. Now, I actually don't think that points should decay. Instead, I have another option. So let's just think, for example, if we have no elimination points, this isn't what I'm suggesting, by the way, but let's just take this as an example. 0 elimination points. What would happen is if all these players are playing placements, the top 25 gain and the bottom 75 lose. So what this means is basically you can just get to, say, top 100 in elo because you had a couple good games in a row, and then just stop playing and forever be eligible for the rest of the FNCSs. Now, That's not what we want. We want to cancel that one out. My arms are hurting, man. This mic's heavy. So the first way I want to cancel that one out would obviously be you have to play a specific amount of games a week. So say 10 games a week, just a minimum of 10. 5 even itself is good enough to make that already not decay. But on top of that, what I think should happen is you should only get elimination points after the 5th zone. If you want a W key early, you're not going to be rewarded for that at all, meaning that players will play for later on. Because if you lose, remember, if you die earlier on, you're going to be punished much more for this because you're not going to gain any points, and you're almost certainly going to lose ELO unless you're in the top 25 players so far. So immediately, you've already got to think this is going to create a ton more. Will I hot drop? Will I land this POI? Do I feel confident here? If I win the fight, I'm not going to gain anything from it in terms of points. I'm going to get their loot, which would be good, which means that players will go for refreshes when they need them, but they're not going to gain points-wise for this, which will mean, again, they're going to play much slower throughout the rest of the game until it gets to that 5th zone. Then they can get the placement points and the elimination points when it comes into endgame. So you've already creating a way for players to play for endgame and create higher quality games without giving them a real incentive financially, right? There's no cost from, say, Epic Games to do this. There's, apart from obviously making the actual arena, you got to pay the engineers to make it actually work at the same time. You know, they got to make their bag too. They're not giving out prize money for this. They're not giving away anything. They're just making players play in a good way. We already know if you even made it super placement heavy, some of these games, people just W key anyway. People just want to key regardless. But using my system, if you W key early on and you lose that fight, you're going to lose a ton of points as well, meaning that you may not be able to play cash cups or FNCS. So there's a deterrent for W keying stupidly earlier on as well, and there's a reward for playing high quality games that take you all the way to endgame. So why do I not think there needs to be a decay of points to stop people getting, say, top 100 in ELO and then just stop playing? Well, my thought of that is the elimination points I talked about earlier. Now, if we think back to the way I set up my system with the placement points, being if you get top 25, you gain. If you go bottom 75, you lose points. This is essentially redistributing points throughout all of a lobby. So rather than everyone gaining points, they're just redistributed through all the players who are playing. That means there's a finite amount of points, which basically means that some of the thresholds probably won't really change that much. So say to get to top 1000, which was what I suggested to be the FNCS qualification threshold, say that was you had an ELO of 1600, just as an example. Throughout the weeks, that probably wouldn't change that much as players go up and some players go down. So yes, if say you had an ELO of 1800, you could stop playing and you'd be okay. Now obviously I said earlier about having a 10 game minimum a week, which is the first way to help this. Now with the elimination points only coming in after the 5th zone, so any end game eliminations during the moving zones, you would get points for these. What that's going to do is slowly add more points to the pool, meaning that those thresholds slowly over time are going to keep going up. Meaning that if you stop playing, you are going to go underneath the top 1000 because other people are slowly gaining points. And that top 1000 threshold in week 1 will have gone from, say, 1600 ELO to now maybe 1800 or 1900. And if you're below that, you no longer qualify and you got to keep grinding. So this makes players ensure that they keep playing high quality games or end game or qualification for tournaments that's fun and grindable with a big ELO leaderboard at the same time. You've also got to think that this works for the low-level players too. The players who are really bad are coming across people of their same ELO, their same skill level, the same amount that they've played at the same time, meaning that they can keep playing these top-tier games. Potentially, it's obviously not going to be as stacked in the lower ELO points, but this benefits everyone because it's still a good skill-based and points-based matchmaking that puts you with people of equal skill so that you can try and rank up, get better, and improve. And why have we not done this? Why is this not in? Why is this already not in the game? Imagine how much would you play of this? You could just load on anytime and basically have super high quality games. I know I would play this all day. I genuinely would. I think this would be one of the best ranked systems. And I've not heard a better ranked system yet. So if you've got ideas, drop it down below. Let me know. Hope you guys enjoyed this video and learned a lot as well. Peace, people.